We will call to order the Planning Commission meeting for September 18th, 2024. Welcome everybody that's here. Welcome, Dean.
His face is huge.
We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is to look for an approval of the meeting agenda.
This is Barb, so moved.
This is Bethany, I'll second.
Been motion and second. I will call for the vote.
Scott, aye.
Barb, aye.
Bethany, aye.
Robin, aye.
Lynn, aye. Next is the discussion of the MTW truck wash CUP on Hornsby Avenue. We had the public hearing, so now it's our meeting to have a discussion. Are there any discussions to be? I'll start if you want me to. So maybe Jack could answer this, or Janet, but thanks for the traffic study for Love's. My concern is that when this was done, Love's built their building, but they ended up having to take out 14 parking spots because of the traffic and the flow. I just don't want to set a precedence and not require another one and then have another business come in and we require one and they say, well, you didn't make them do it. So I'm totally coming from the standpoint that this had to be, Love's had to redo their parking spots, so this wasn't exactly good. And then now I do realize that some of the trucks in the truck wash are going to already have been there because they're at Love's, but there is going to be some new traffic. And I don't want to set precedents to not ask for a traffic study when new businesses go in. So, Janet, do you want to?
I can speak to it a little bit since I was here when they did this. Dean, chime in because I know you're familiar with this too. But my understanding is the traffic study was primarily to address the traffic coming on and off of 97, not in their parking lot. Okay. So the fact that they took 14 spots off, that had nothing to do with this traffic study. This traffic study is our trucks going to be lined up down Hornsby, or are they going to be lined up on 97 trying to get in and out of there? And are they going to have a problem making that turn? And that's what this addressed. So it didn't have anything to do with the parking lot.
Dean, do you have anything you want to add?
You're muted.
Mute. There I am. I don't have anything else. I tend to agree with Janet. These are two remarkably different uses. And the applicant is complying with all of the parking requirements, and just based on the difference in volumes from Love's versus a use like this, I have no concerns whatsoever.
Okay.
This is Barb. My concerns with the commercial truck washing businesses hinge on, as I said before, the water consumption. When we had the hotel go in and it was authorized, there was a concern about adequate water pressure in the freeway district. When the asphalt plant went in, it was approved with no concern by the previous mayor and council regarding the lack of public water supply and the lack of a fire hydrant in case of a fire, until the fire marshal addressed that. My current concern is the depletion of fresh water supply by a business that does not plan to use a closed-loop water recycling system that can reclaim up to 85% of the water and filter out contaminants that may impact groundwater. The city public works director has gone on the record on page 12 indicating that the MTW truck wash has a minimal to no impact on the city's system. As a citizen, my concern is to safeguard the environment. The water conservation has become a critical subject throughout the country, evidenced by the concerns of government agencies during 2021 drought. And the Pollution Control Agency has stressed the importance of and responsibility to manage and conserve our water resources. Reclaiming, treating, and reusing wastewater by commercial truck washing businesses can dramatically reduce their dependence on our fresh water sources and prevent the release of contaminants into our environment. So that's my concerns with businesses that don't reclaim the water.
So I'm going to go back to the last meeting when we were talking about the cannabis, and Robin was giving us an explanation of how they recycle the water to use for the plants. Is there any way you can recycle water for the car wash?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
It's proven. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm asking them, so, I mean, have you considered that?
Consider a water.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you step up to the mic so we can put this on the record? Thank you.
And then give your name and address, please.
Hi, Mark Fear, Car Wash Technologies. Been a business person in Forest Lake for 30 years. Been in the car wash industry for 30 years. I build and service car washes, over 200 of them in the metro area. And I have information about reclaim, and there's pros and cons and where it can be used and where it can't be.
James Sky, live in Columbus, 8173 West Broadway.
Brenna Sky, 8173 West Broadway Avenue.
So, Amy, have you thought about that anymore since we talked about it at the last meeting?
So there's problems with reclaim on a truck wash because of the variety of the vehicles that you have to wash. You're not able to use friction. And so a bulk of it is done with chemistry and touch-free and some hand prep work. Reclaimed water can be cleaned more than one time. A basic reclaim system, once that reclaimed water is purified to phase 1, there's still debris and particle in it, which will clog all the nozzles and jets that we use to clean the vehicle within days. And so it'll be very difficult to maintain that equipment to work properly. There are Californian sites that are using, very little fresh water, but they all use some fresh water. But when you reclaim water on a phase 1, it can't be reused with any chemistry. Most of the washes that I build today are like what you see, the big Mr., the Tommy type washes. And we do put some reclaimed products in them, equipment in them to purify some water. Most of that water is used for an underbody flush, or a main thing that we use it for is you're seeing these new plastic dual drive belts. And so we have to flush them continuously through the wash process to minimize debris that causes extreme wear on that piece of equipment. And if you were to use fresh water for that, it would cost a lot and waste a lot. So we use very little in the chemical or the rinsing because we can't get good quality, it leaves streaking and marking on the vehicles. Because of the touch-free and such variation of the truck, you just can't use friction. There's just too many variables on those types of vehicles. So in this application, it's going to be very difficult to get any quality reclaimed water to be used during the wash process. You know, from a pollution standpoint to the environment, you know, I'm not an engineer and I'm not the one that changes the rules and how we do things, but historically we used to have a large sand trap storage tank, usually inside the building. It catches, you know, dirt, sand, and then it would flow to a flammable waste trap, and then it would flow to the city. And the purpose of the flammable waste trap is to catch and absorb any type of oils or fuels or anything, because they're lighter than water and they'll float to the top, but they won't get discharged. Which makes sense. And a sand trap is typically a 500-gallon container. When we do a reclaim system, we do a similar thing with a large sand trap, followed by 3 large septic-type tanks. And the purpose of those tanks is to get the sediment to drop out continuously through that flow of water, and then through a flammable waste trap, and then to the sewer. And we do that especially in a reclaim system because the reclaim system is only capable of so much cleaning. And so the hope is by the time we hit that 3rd or 4th tank, most of the sediment is settled and dropped out before we try to grab it, flush it, cyclonic, and dump it back into one of the tanks. And lately, what's changed, it happened to me in the city of Bloomington, and it just happened to me on a new construction in Maple Grove. They've changed the flammable waste trap. We still put a storage tank in the middle. They put the flammable waste trap in the front side, and then they push it through the tanks, and then they push it to the city. So if something somehow gets into the system, the flammable waste trap is no longer really where it should be to separate the oils and the fuels to prevent pollution. But again, that's what the code is, that's what they're telling us to do, and that's how they've told us to design it. So we have to follow the code. Right or wrong, that's the code. You know, I think it's being done backwards, but that's not my job. You know, I've heard different discussions about not having a water tower and being concerned with providing water to the businesses and the residents. And when the tanker truck is filled at the racetrack, it sounded like it put a pretty big impact on your water pressure. I don't know what they use, but it sounds like they're using somewhere in the neighborhood of a 4 or 6 inch fire hose that can probably flow several hundred gallons per minute when it does that process. I believe this site does not have to be sprinkled for code. No. So if you don't have to sprinkle, the size of the water line that comes into the building is way smaller. When I did one of my buildings in Forest Lake, they asked me to put an 8-inch water line in a 4,000 square foot building that wasn't required to be sprinkled, which was a little overkill and an extreme cost. And then coming out of this 8-inch water line, I have a 1-inch copper pipe. And when you have a sprinkler system, they need a big water line because they need that volume to put out the fire, which makes sense. Putting in a 4-inch water line into the building makes sense for long-term building use, should that building use change someday. But reality is we can run this whole car wash on a 2-inch line, and we would normally put a 2-inch RPZ, which is your backflow preventer, which prevents pollutant and chemical getting back into the water system. But we have found that there's a pressure drop in that, and it isn't the flow, it's the pressure drop, and that pressure drop brings the pressure down to some of our equipment that has safety switches on it that run off of pressure, and if the pressure drops, the equipment shuts down. So we will usually oversize the RPZ valve because we don't want a pressure drop, and then we can bring that pipe size back down to 2-inch to supply the equipment. So when the car wash is running at full capacity, both bays, it could pull about 100 gallons a minute max, not several hundred, and maybe some of the numbers that have been floating around and discussed, because everything goes in cycles. It's approximately 350 gallons of water during a 15-minute cycle, which happens 4 times an hour. So it's kind of like, I think it's like ocean water, right? We have a lot of ocean water, but there's a lot of expense, and it's very difficult for a municipality or a large water facility to extract the salt to make it drinkable. When you deal with reclaim, it doesn't matter what reclaim system you have in the world, none of them can address salt. And we're in a state that uses salt to clean the roads. So when the water gets to a certain level, around 2,000 parts per million of salt, we can't clean a car. So when you have a closed system or a large reclaim system, you're gonna call a tanker truck in, and you're gonna pump 20, 30,000 gallons of water out of these storage tanks. Well, what happens after that? Can't run the car wash till we refill the pool. So now we take it and have to refill the pool, which will put, then we're gonna want bigger water lines to fill them faster. So reclaim has a place. It's just with this type of variety of vehicle, we just don't have a lot of options to produce water quality that can clean a truck and not leave milky, scummy, greasy type product on the vehicle. And when you use reclaimed water, again, it's a little bit hard to understand and how it makes sense sometimes, because if I put 20 gallons of reclaimed water on your car, in theory, I need 25 plus gallons of fresh water to make sure I get all the reclaimed water rinsed off so it doesn't leave the film. So there's kind of a balancing act when you do use reclaim and how you use it and how you rinse it off. So again, it's just, I like to try to save water where we can. We use spot-free systems, which is reverse osmosis, which purifies water till, our objective is less than 5 TDS, total dissolvable solids left in the water, so that when you leave, there's no spots on your car. And these are used in 90% of every car wash. But for every gallon of water or every 2 gallons of water I take in, I only make 1 gallon of good water. Most places take that second gallon of water and throw it out. We take it and we put it in a storage tank because it's good water, it's soft water. We don't care if it has TDS because we're just using it to clean the car, and we're gonna re-rinse it anyways with spot free. So when it comes to like the RO systems, we reclaim 100% of that water because it's good water, and water costs money. So anywhere we can reduce water, there's a cost savings to running the business. So we're always going to try to save water. We're going to try to run the equipment at its fastest speed possible, because obviously the faster it goes, the less water it uses, the less water it uses, the less it costs us. So that's kind of why reclaim isn't like a really great application here. What questions do you guys have that I can try to answer?
Any other questions while they're there?
So you're saying reclaiming water is bogus? That it serves no purpose?
It can be used in environments like in touch-free. So on the front half of the wash, when we put chemistry on, we have to use soft water that's clean. And then when the brushes hit the car, we can use dirtier reclaimed water to scrub dirt and do what we need to do and lubricate the brushes and get some of that dirt off the car. But after that process, we have to rinse it with fresh water. Bobby's Car Wash over on Highway 65 doesn't have sewer and water, and it's a closed system, but it's all friction. And when it was originally engineered and designed, not by me or my company, they opened the brand new business, And within 2 weeks, they had to shut down. And they've had to pump those storage tanks about every 6 days, around 35,000 gallons. And they were using reclaimed water sporadically, and they couldn't clean cars, and they couldn't even open their business. They open, closed, which again just proved that, yes, you can use some reclaim in certain areas, but you have to use fresh water with some chemistry and in the rinsing process and to make RO water. And so we had to add a little bit of fresh water to the site over and above the way it was designed. And ultimately, it ended up costing the customer money because they're going to have to pump the tanks every 6 days. I believe the Holiday in Ham Lake has the same situation where they literally pump their tanks every 3 days. They don't have enough storage, but again, when you and they have reclaim, but when you pump the tank dry, you have to refill it because otherwise nothing works and circulates. So in the tunnels and the frictions, you can use reclaimed water. Even in some of the in-bay automatic touch-frees that don't have the spinning turbo type nozzle design that create power, impingement, and what we use to get clean, the nozzle size is bigger and more open, so if dirt needs to pass through it, it can actually get through it. But we still go back and rinse with fresh water and put the wax on with fresh water and put spot free on with fresh water. So it's yeah, I mean, and there's a phase 2 reclaim, call it clarifier, which will take phase 1 reclaim water and purify it to another level that can be used with chemistry. But again, if it has debris in it, it will cause nozzle or plugging of the nozzles in the system that is used for trucks. So it's tougher when you don't have friction. It's really tough. It's a struggle. You almost can't do it. Nothing's impossible, but you almost can't do it. And then back to the salt, there's no way to get rid of it. So you have to pump. You can't put a timeline on it. It's a monitoring process that when that 2,000 salt level is hit, you have to pump the tanks. So you have to introduce fresh water again. So it's kind of a seesaw game.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dean, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Not about water. The city staff have indicated that the city is capable of providing for this particular business. And while all discussions about conservation or other environmental issues are always appropriate in meetings like this, and that is a function of the Planning Commission and the City Council to put those questions forward, the basis for all of our approvals are whether or not we're consistent with ordinance requirements. And on this topic, we have no standards, requirements, guidelines, anything related to water reuse for truck washes. And so I would only caution that may not be a valid issue in a decision on recommending for or against this particular conditional use permit.
Well, it's just a learning process, and we all get to learn what it's all about. And I don't want to open a car wash. How's that? After learning all about it. So.
It was a very helpful explanation. I mean, I feel like so many of these environmental problems that are real problems that are, important problems, but there's not like a good solution most of the time. There is solutions that sound really nice, but there's always hangups. There's always, problems usually. And so it's helpful to hear your perspective that it's not just like, oh, we'll just reclaim it. It'll, it's not as simple as that. And it usually isn't with these things, which is unfortunate. But I appreciate the thorough explanation.
Any other discussion? Robin? Scott?
Nothing.
Okay, then the discussion, I will look for a motion.
This is Scott. I'll make a motion to approve.
This is Bethany. I'll second.
Motion's been made and second. I will call for the vote.
Scott, aye.
Barb, nay.
Bethany, aye.
Robin, aye.
Lynn, aye. Because there's really, like Dean said, there's nothing it fits. I really appreciate the explanation, and it's just our job to worry and ask the questions about environmental, traffic. But as far as the ordinances and everything, there was really nothing we can do. So that will be recommended to the City Council next week, September 25th, 6 p.m. right here. And then it's up to them to give you your final go-ahead. Good luck.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Next item is public open forum. If there's anybody that would like to address the Planning Commission. Anybody online? We will move on to Planning Commissioner's report. And I will start off that this weekend is Fall Fest, Friday night at the races. The mayor has his shirt on. Saturday here at the park in City Hall, and Sunday worship in the park and a pancake breakfast. And it's not going to rain. You heard it here first. But come out and enjoy yourself. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Don't forget Friday.
Yeah, and I said Friday night at the races,
Yep.
drive-in movie. So there's 7 businesses that sponsored races this year, which is up from 4 last year, so it should be a really good turnout. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank our businesses. If anybody listens to the replay, without our businesses in town supporting this event, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And I think it's really great that the businesses invest in the community. So, anybody else have a report?
Not me.
No, I don't.
Planning and zoning report.
I also have a fun one, speaking about Columbus businesses. Columbus is happening pretty soon as well on October 4th at Running Aces. I'll be sending out some more details of that, but it will be an opportunity to meet the business owners and operators throughout Columbus and meet and greet and sit and chat.
Is it in the morning?
It will be in the afternoon. Afternoon, evening, 5.
You are all invited.
You are all invited.
And
is what I'm
welcome,
saying,
and we hope
I
you
will
can
send
come.
you some more details.
So
Is that a
happy hour.
Saturday?
It is a
No, it's a Friday.
Thursday.
Friday? Okay.
Is it October 3rd?
I'm just
I might
trying
have
to
said
think.
the wrong date. I believe it is October 3rd, and it is a Thursday.
I just know I
Okay.
have a new grandbaby due on October 4th, and it's a Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have the 3rd in my
Okay, so it's the 3rd.
It is the 3rd.
Thursday.
New Girl Day.
Okay.
No. What's that movie called? Mean Girls.
Mean Girl Day.
Thursday, October 3rd at Running Aces, Columbus Happy Hour.
And it's 4 to 6.
So,
4 p.m. to 6,
4 to 6,
I
okay.
believe. That's what I have on my calendar.
Any other announcements? If not, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
This is Bethany. I will make a motion to adjourn.
This is Robin, I'll second.
It's been motion and second. I will call for the vote.
Scott, aye.
Barb, aye.
Bethany, aye.
Robin, aye.
Lynn, aye. Meeting adjourned at 6:29.